I don't know anything about the specifics that you're referring to on emerging market funds. I haven't looked at the size of the premiums, but history would certainly show that most closed-end funds, just about all closed-end funds, eventually go to discounts. I actually worked, well, I'll skip that analogy, but the overwhelmingly closed-end funds have gone to discounts. Initially, if they're sold with a 6% commission, of course, the initial people are getting 94 cents of net asset value by paying the dollar. But if I had an interest in buying into emerging markets through other people's management, and I could buy an open-end fund at X or at asset value, and I had to pay 120% of X for some closed-end fund, you'd have to convince me very strongly that the management of the closed-end fund was better. So I think you're right. I don't know the size. The premium's a few percent. It doesn't really make much difference. But occasionally, Charlie and I have witnessed in the past closed-end funds that have sold even at 30 or 40% premiums over asset value. Overseas Securities was a tiny fund that used to do that for years and baffled everybody. But eventually they will come back down to earth. Charlie?
I've got nothing to add.
He's hitting his stride now. Number 5.
Warren remonstrated softly, I thought, toward a slightly more rational result, and he was outvoted.
Charlie used the term envy rather than greed, which is interesting because that's been our experience, is that envy is probably a bigger motivation in terms of people wanting to be in that top quartile or whatever it may be than greed. It's a very interesting phenomenon that you can hand somebody a $2 million bonus and they're fine until they find out that the person next to them got $2.1 million, and then they're sick for the next year. Charlie has pointed out, of the 7 deadly sins, that envy is kind of the silliest because you don't feel better. If you get envious of somebody, you feel worse the whole time. Now, gluttony, I've had some of my best times while being gluttonous. There's a real upside to gluttony. I don't. We won't get into lust, but I've heard that there are upsides to that occasionally. But envy, all you do is sit around and make yourself sick and can't get to sleep. But it's part of the human psyche, and you see it big time, and you get this irony. The SEC wants even more transparency on pay, which I think, basically is a good idea, except for the fact that it becomes a shopping list for every other CEO when they see that somebody is getting their haircuts paid for by the company, and they decide that they too need their haircuts paid for by the company, and they suddenly become big tippers. Let's move on to number 3. This meeting, in terms of what we do, is intended to give a personality and a character to Berkshire. And we don't say it's better than anybody else's necessarily, but we do think it's us. And we think we want managers to join us who believe in the sort of operation we have, a partnership with shareholders, a lifetime commitment to the businesses. We want those people to join us. We want what they see after they join us to underscore the values we have. So everything we do, we hope, is consistent with what most people would call a culture at Berkshire. So that the written word, what they see, what they hear, what they observe, and that is training in itself. It's the same sort of training you get as a child. When you are in the home, you're learning something every day by the behavior of these terribly important people, these big people that are around you. And a home has a culture, a business has a culture, to some extent a country can have a culture. And we try to do everything that's consistent with that. We try to do nothing that is inconsistent with that. And believe me, if you're a bright business Berkshire manager, and they are bright, they buy into it to start with. They see that it works, and it doesn't require formal lessons or mentoring or anything of the sort. I mean, if you talk to our Berkshire managers, you would find that they think consistently with how, in effect, Charlie and I think. There are plenty of people that don't, and they don't join us. I mean, we hear all the time from people. I've got one coming in a little while, actually, that nothing's going to come of it because this guy has his brain processes things different than mine does, and I'm kind of interested in learning about his business, so we'll get together. But it wouldn't fit. It would just not. It would be a mismatch. And the nice thing about it is our culture is so well defined that there aren't many mistakes in terms of people entering it or behaving in a way inconsistent with it. So I don't think there's any formal training necessary. I mentioned in the annual report the fact that if I die tonight, there are 3 obvious candidates to take my place. Now, the board knows which one of them they would agree on tonight. Might be different 3 years from now. But any of those 3 would not miss a beat in terms of stepping in to the culture that I hope we have here, because it's theirs too. Charlie?
Well, if Warren has kept the faith until he's 75 years old in maintaining a certain kind of culture and a certain way of thinking, do you really think he's going to blow the job of passing the faith on? What could be more important in terms of his duties in life?
Yeah.
You all have something more important to do than worry about the fact that the candle is going to go out at Berkshire just because some people die. This is a place where the faith is going to go on for a long time. Of course, at headquarters, we aren't training executives. We find them. And they're not hard to find. If a mountain stands up like Everest, you don't have to be a genius to recognize that it's a high mountain.
Okay, number 4.
A lot of other publicly traded corporations also have fair compensation systems, but about half of them have grossly unfair systems in which the top people get paid too much. We know how to fix Berkshire, but our ability to influence the half of American industry where the compensation systems are unfair has so far been about zero.
Yeah, one thing you may find interesting, we have, 68 operating companies. I probably have responsibility for the compensation system of perhaps 40 managers or thereabouts, because some of them have businesses grouped under them. I can't think of anyone we have lost over a 40-year period because of differences in views on compensation. We've never had a compensation consultant come into Berkshire. They may have had them at the subsidiaries, but they're smart enough not to tell me. It's never happened. I mean, we do not have lots of meetings. We don't spend a lot of time on it. It is not rocket science. It's made more complicated than it needs to be, more confusing than it needs to be, because having a system that is complicated and confusing serves the needs of some who want to get paid a whole lot more than they're worth. And the system won't change because it's working to the advantage of the people that have their hand on the switch, the people that pick the human relations consultants and pick the people who are on the comp committee.